Dreams can be defined as a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep. It can be a daydream or a fantasy about something you truly desire. Dreams can be inspirational and take us in directions we never thought possible. This is what happened to my guest today, Cate Montana. Cate is a thinker and author who had an inspiration one day that led her to write her new novel, Apollo and Me. And I'm very happy to welcome her as a guest to the Dream Power Show today. Welcome, Cate.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so excited to be on the show.
You know, a book is good when it works on multiple levels. And that is so true for Apollo and Me. I mean, on one level, it's a kick-ass romance novel, and it's a great summer read. But it's so much more than that. It's a story of rebirth. It's a story of the gods, the battles of the gods, an ode to the sacred feminine, and half a dozen other wonderful things about this book. But it all began with a vision. So tell us, what was this vision you had?
I've been a very left-brain person and done a lot of work I've been a journalist for 35 years, and I've been writing nonfiction titles for years. So I was in Greece writing a book for Simon & Schuster called The E Word, which was about ego, enlightenment, and ego psychology and evolution, some pretty heavy stuff. I took a break. I went to the Temple of Apollo at Delphi in Greece. I was staying in Greece at a friend's house for 3 months writing the book. And so I had to take a break. I'd go to Delphi. I've always had a thing about Apollo and the Greek gods, Debbie. It was the very first, Delphi in Greece was the very first place I ever went when I left the United States when I was 19 to travel. That was the place I wanted to go see. Prescient. Okay, so 40 years later, I'm back at Delphi, you know, the tourists and all that. It's still beautiful, still amazing and magical, but I wanted to get away from people. So the next day I took a hike early in the morning up Mount Parnassus, and I'm sitting in the sunshine. I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of a mountain. I'm overlooking the Temple of Apollo, and maybe I'd had a little bit too much Greek coffee to drink that morning. But so I'm sitting there and minding my own business, and I had a vision. In my mind's eye, I just saw this beautiful man just bound over the rocks towards me, sat down right next to me. He had copper-colored eyes, and he just turned to me and he said, "Hi, I'm Apollo. I have things to tell humanity. Let's talk." And then that was it.
How much of that was?
It was like I didn't know whether I had.
How much of that was in the vision? Was the whole conversation with Apollo in that vision you had?
No, the vision itself was, "Hi, I'm Apollo. I have things to tell humanity. Let's talk." And then poof, he was gone. So it just it knocked me for a total loop. I was so shocked. And I literally walked back down the mountain and pulled out my computer, because when I write, I think I really kind of channel, because I just go into a theta or an alpha state and information just flows. And I always know that it's not like just me when I think I'm going this way, and then all of a sudden the book or whatever I'm writing takes me this way. I'm like, oh, that's not me. That's something coming through me. So I went back to my room in my hotel in Delphi, and I pulled out my computer and I just tuned into those eyes and the energy of this vision, and the story just started to unfold. I mean, it was just instantaneous. It was just, I hesitate to say it was like a download, but it was kind of like a download. And then I had to go back to my left brain functioning and write the other book, Ego Psychology and Enlightenment, that I was working on. But I kid you not, 3 days after I got through writing the E Word and sent my manuscript into my publisher, I was back at the computer communing with Apollo and those eyes and that energy, and just going, all right, you know, what else have you got to say? And 3 months, within 3 months, I mean, I did this. I was just a crazy person. I was so obsessed, Debbie, with this vision and with Apollo and his energy and and the things that started to flow out and through me were just like, wow. And it was a love story, which totally blew my mind. It was like, but so much of what Apollo has to say is about, let's do this marriage of heaven and earth and mind, body, and spirit, the, you know, emotions and love and the mind. Let's get it all together, girl.
When you first had that vision, were you envisioning a love story coming out of it, or did that just hit you?
Debbie, I had no idea what was going to come out. I had no idea. I didn't know if, number one, what had happened had really happened. I didn't know if it was a fantasy or a delusion or a true vision. And when I sat down to write, I had zero idea about anything. And this story just started, and the conversation that I might have had with him started flowing. And then the story just kept flowing. And then more information from Apollo kept showing up. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm along for the ride.
And what a ride it is. You said before that you had always had an attraction to Apollo. Why is that?
In retrospect, it's really clear. I during the course of writing this book, and in the course of the last several years, it took 4 years to bring this book to the world. I've realized that I definitely had a past life as a priestess in around 330 BC at the Temple of Apollo in Greece, and that this energy that I was engaging was not. It was very familiar, deeply familiar to me, and so, you know, to this day, Debbie, I've never seen Apollo again. I've not felt a presence looming over me or anything like that, but there's just been this kind of a very wise, very solid, but very funny, not funny, humorous, lighthearted energetic, playful, energetic that enlivened time I tune into Apollo's energy. And it's just really brought me into my feminine nature like nothing else. It's brought me into my writing this book, engaging Apollo, archetype, fantasy, delusion, has so broadened me as a woman. It's taken me out of my very left brain scientific, this is, you know, how the world is, and vaulted me so deep into my body, into my emotions. It was really, really hard for me to admit that I'd written a romance novel. It's still hard for me to admit that I've written a romance novel, and I always hasten to say, but it's so much more, because, you know, there's this judgment about the feminine in me still that says, oh, you know, well, you know, science good and love stories are just frivolous fluff. And it's like, and it's that kind of marginalization of love and the spiritual aspect of sexuality and sensuality, and all of the story of a woman as we grow older, and then we begin to think we're losing our juice, we're losing our feminine edge because we don't look hot anymore, and then all this insecurity about sexuality and appearance and age show up, and all of these issues that I'd kind of like shoved under the carpet for years, Debbie, were just like right in my face writing this book.
Right. One of the refreshing angles of this book is that your heroine's not the typical ravishing beauty that you see so often in romance novels. She's a mature, seasoned woman in her 60s. So what made you decide to go there?
I confess this book is highly autobiographical because in the writing of it, Debbie, I could not separate myself from the story. And so much of my issues as a woman, as a spiritual woman, who, as I say, was struggling with my sexuality of all things. And it's so much of my spirituality is about getting out there to God. You know, let me have my eyes closed, let me meditate, and then I will be one with God. But it's like, I'm one with God in this body. I'm divine in this body. And I discovered through the writing of this book how deeply I was simply paying lip service to, oh, yes, everything is spirit. Yes, my body is spirit. My sexuality is God too. Get me out of here. I was totally paying lip service to that, that divine union. Apollo just slammed me right into the carpet on that one. And it's just like, you've got to get in your body. So writing the story and my protagonist, Catherine, and putting her as 60 something and with all of these issues, my issues, it just seemed to be it seemed to be the right thing to do because that's just what flowed out.
Cate, early on in the story, Apollo gives Catherine a choice about having eternal youth, and she has a choice to make there. Why did she make the choice she did?
Oh, yeah, that was a shocker. I mean, because that's basically how the book started out. That was the storyline. And Apollo, this entity, this whatever, actually tapped really deep inside one of my biggest issues, which was with my aging. I hate getting older, or I hated getting older. And I had real issues with it about my body beginning to sag and drag and et cetera, et cetera. And wow, he just nailed me from the outgo about my deepest wound and issue at the moment. And so the fact that, because I can't separate my own healing out of this book. Apollo was very, very clear. He was the god of healing, amongst other things, the god of music, the god of wisdom and light. But he's a healer. And he made no bones about it through the story that he was here to heal me and to heal humanity, especially women, by opening up this can of worms in all of us in the feminine, that's keeping us tamped down from being our full expression. And so I had to deal with my aging issues. And so, yeah, Apollo, I don't think this is going to give anything away. Apollo approaches Catherine, the protagonist, and he offers her eternal youth, if she will worship him. So she makes the decisions she makes, and on the book goes. And it's a deeply spiritual dive, as you said. There, yes, on the surface, it's a romance. And it's also a romance about an older woman and a younger man.
Okay, how can our listeners find out more about you and about the book?
They can buy it on Amazon.com or order it through any bookstore. And they can find me at www.Cate, with a C, well, I guess let's just with a C, CateMontana.com, or on Facebook, The Real Cate Montana.
We've been speaking with writer Cate Montana about Apollo and Me.